So speaking about politics, I want to take a look at the state of politics this week. And something interesting happened. I mean, I think this year we've talked about the relationship between the church and politics. And just this week, at the start of this week, that was made very clear at a church in Embu. The bishop of the Catholic diocese there. Listen.
Deputy President anaambiwa na tanga. Waoni ile kazi anayoifanya. Kusema hii barabara itengenezwe, tuwekewe maji hapa. Nyuki anafanya kazi. Inji anasema nyuki anatangata. Deputy President ndelea kutanga. Hakuna shida. Tanga ukifanya kazi ya Mungu, ukiwafanyia watu kazi vizuri. Wacha 2022 itafika.
By far the most political statement we have heard from a leader, particularly a member of the Catholic clergy. There are Catholics with us here. So, an altar boy,
and a son of a catechist.
And the son of a catechist. Are you Catholic, Prof?
Yes, my background is Catholic actually.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I'm the only one who's not. But so I'll let the Catholics speak. LK, I really need to start with you.
Oh, I was wishing you start with someone else. But the Catholic Church as an institution is by far more thoughtful than this. It never does things this way. This was a very strange outburst by the Bishop of Embu. But when we were growing up, when the culture of Harambes was really taking root under the KANU government, it was the spirit in the village. I do remember that choirs, especially women groups, would sing a lot of praises to the main guest in order to soften the main guest. Because the principal guests would normally adjust the figures according to what kind of reception they receive. I think this was a very rare moment of excitement by a very senior church leader, to the point that he actually did so many things in about, how long was that bite?
Yeah. How long was it, Robert?
About 10-15 seconds.
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
About 20 seconds. We have a very senior church leader taking a position in the tanga versus kieleweke battle, taking a position in favor of tanga. Two, we have an implied endorsement of a candidate in 2022 because he said, wacha 2022 itafika. But more worryingly, there was an implied insult here because he spoke of bees
and
houseflies. Now, a church leader doesn't do that.
Right.
So who are the houseflies?
Yes.
And some of those could be his congregants and could
the
have been
houseflies
in
could be
that
seated right in front of you.
Right.
There could be people who are seated in front of you. I think this was a very low moment for the Bishop of Embu, a very unguarded moment and quite un-Catholic. The church has always been more thoughtful than this.
I'd like to go to Prof.
Yes.
I think the bigger concern really is the degeneration of the church generally in our country. We knew for many years that the alternative voice to government, when government had their excesses, we knew the first point of call was the church. And we knew that that's a voice we could rely on. In fact, media came after. And what we've been seeing quite consistently is the church abdicating that role, so that the church is becoming less and less credible. I was telling one of my friends the other day, and it applies to the bishop. I was telling my friend that there's a possibility that a bishop can be a holy man. There's a possibility. This is the level we've reached. The church is basically perpetrating evil. The church is not protecting the citizen. The church is not the moral voice and the moral code of society. And as Linus is saying, the Catholic Church for very many years has has been really one of the churches you could go to together with the Anglican Church, and you could rely on the sentiments of the leaders of those, of the church there. When the church when a leader in the church gets into this political mix nonsense and takes a stand, is extremely unfortunate, because in the church there you got tanga people, you got kieleweke people, you got all sorts of people within the church. And what you expect really is that the church keeps quiet, and when the church speaks, the church then speaks for
everyone. Okay, interesting. Francis?
The problem we have now is that the church does not seem to operate in a vacuum, because politicians are members of the church.
Correct.
The congregants are political players. They support one political operative as opposed to another. And number three, and truth be told, churches are relying on these politicians for resources in terms of development on various matters.
Those who actually asked for
for
a share of these monies.
So the issue is if we invite Honorable Yvonne Okwara for a fundraiser in our church, he's expecting, or she's expecting, a certain amount of airtime in church to say a few things.
Well, she's paying for it.
And because it comes with some goodies, so you will expect that you will align yourself in a certain manner. But I don't think that ordinarily should be the situation.
Right.
It ought to be, let the leaders, like any other person, come to church, make their contributions, but when it is right, tell them it is right. When it is wrong, tell them it is wrong. Then what stops any other bishop from Kericho, from Mombasa, from Lodwar, from making a political pronouncement, and as in total opposition to what the Bishop of Embu said?
Right.
So you will end up with a situation where various dioceses have various positions on politics, which is a clash.
And it's interesting that you mentioned division, because I really want to pivot very quickly to the one.
Lastly, when we grew up as altar boys and as members of the church, we knew things called pastoral letters.
Thank you. Yeah.
That pastoral letter, the bishops used to sit down and come up with a position on a certain matter.
Correct.
And that pastoral letter would be populated to all the parishes, all the outstations, all the dioceses, and
read on the same Sunday.
And read on the same Sunday.
So
there's uniformity in terms of positions.
Correct.
But now,
if you hold a personal position as a church leader, that's yours. But the official position of the church is outlined in a pastoral letter.
It's interesting that you mentioned that pastoral letter and that being like the unifying voice.
Right.
And now we seem to see division amongst the Catholic clergy as to the place of politics on the pulpit. But we're also seeing division within Jubilee. I wonder if there's a pastoral letter that President Uhuru Kenyatta might have written to the party when he endorsed Mariga for the seat of Kibra. If that was meant to be a pastoral letter, it doesn't look like the Jubilee members are adhering to it one bit. Take a look at female legislators within Jubilee and their different stance on fielding a candidate in Kibra.
We know again as Jubilee, our candidate really, he does, for me, so you said listening to our candidate, it is really shaming. Secondly, when he was asked, what do you want to do? He said, I want to give back to the community. What is it that he's coming to give back now that he could not do it when he had a higher platform?
We have said it before, we really just hope that the elections in Kibra are conducted in a very peaceful manner. And so we encourage him to just relax.
If Maina feels that he wants, because of handshake, he wants to join the handshake candidate, that is up to him. But Jubilee has a candidate. And that is the position that we are in as Jubilee members of parliament.
So whoever goes to Kibra, you must set the bar as Ken or God. Don't just go to Kibra because
Are you therefore saying that candidate Mariga cannot continue with the legacy of Okoth?
No. And I'm sorry to say
and
that.
How does that sit in for a member of the
You
Jubilee
can't.
Party?
First of all, let me tell you, this is why I always feel sad. Because when I wanted to vie in Dagoretti North, I didn't just wake up. I went there 2 years before the election.
So to
understand, wait first. To understand, and that is what leaders must do. Go and understand the people of, especially when you're vying in Nairobi, understand the magnitude that you are entering in and how the people of Nairobi live.
A house divided seemingly just like the Catholic Church is when it comes to the place of So this, by the way, let me just give you a footnote, is were these legislators speaking on Tuesday on our breakfast show Daybreak there with Sam Gituku and Zinzi Kibiku. So where do we begin? Prof, we begin with you. Visitors first. So what's going on here?
Yes, I think what you're seeing is unprecedented lack of leadership. I don't really care whether Jubilee, Chama cha Mapinduzi, ODM is running there. But Yvonne, what concerns me generally in this country is that the leaders themselves are in shock and they're not providing the leadership. Who decided that Jubilee would field a candidate in Kibra? And how come that memo did not reach members of Jubilee? Did people just wake up? At some point, it was being made to appear that Mariga was a tanga candidate by William Ruto. Then Mariga appears in State House. And then it appears that the president has endorsed him. And then we end up with this crap. People saying, no, he should not have been there. People are talking about handshakes, they're talking about things. I think what is worrying me really is that we're becoming rudderless. And this is not just Jubilee, but even ODM. Jubilee should have made a decision as a party about the candidate. And all Jubilee members should have been whipped into supporting that candidature. That is actually leadership. That is good governance. When you hear this sort of thing, what it brings and which is worrisome is that you've got a house with no leader. And that really is worrying. It is a bigger symptom. I don't care whether Mariga wins or loses. But so what was it that the president was doing? Was he some poster boy? How come these people are talking like they did not see the president endorse Mariga?
Right. And it's interesting because it looks like this is just the latest flashpoint for, what's really happening within Jubilee. Right. Even Nairobi County Speaker Beatrice Elachi talked extensively about what she felt as betrayal when she tried to run, and she says she didn't quite have the support of the party. Linus, this looks like, just another sore spot because there's clearly something else that's going on within Jubilee, and this is just sort of, the latest flashpoint in a feuding couple or household.
And the feud is all about the division between the top leadership of Jubilee, that's President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President William Ruto. It's very apparent that crack is there. And everything you do politically lately, when you're in Jubilee, will place you either with the president's camp or with the deputy president's camp. And that is what's happening in Kibera. That is why you see someone who has so avowedly gone out to fight the deputy president, called Minor Commander, going all the way to the ODM headquarters to support an ODM candidate.
Exactly.
What is that about? What is that about? It's all about the divisions within Jubilee. Now, to the candidates in Kibera, including Mariga, they are mere pawns in the game. Really, it's not about them. It's about this fight is not really about Okoth Okoth or Mariga. It's about greater battles on top.
I sympathize with Mariga as a candidate. Why? Because you would have expected that when you're going to a contest as serious as this one, you would have the backing of your party from the very top to the very lowest. But it seems he's going into this contest already with divisions from within. So disadvantages him instantly. Secondly, it doesn't sound very well for him when the party that is supposed to own his candidature seems divided, even to the extent of some members of parliament going to campaign against him.
Right.
It doesn't look very, very tidy, and this is a clear indication of what's happening in Jubilee. It's not well. Initially, when we said these things here and elsewhere, the media was accused of fomenting or inciting or talking about a quarrel that did not exist. But it's now apparent that this quarrel exists, because if it was a united party, you would not have seen these kind of situations that are now becoming very clear. And this is just a small bit of it. Many more things will come in, and this is all about succession.
Correct.
Because the president seems to look at very different things from his deputy, and therein lies the problem.